Hi there, this is Samantha from the Law Office of Samantha Wolfe, and I'm here today to answer another what if question. So, the next question I have is what if a loved one received a stimulus check and has already passed away? What do you do? So, the first thing to know is that originally, when the stimulus checks or the first stimulus check was issued, it was a little bit more complicated and it wasn't clear what the IRS wanted you to do. But now, when you receive a stimulus check on the outside, on the envelope, there should be a little box that you can check. And you just note there that the person is deceased and you just put the check that you received back in the mailbox. So that's one way to handle it. Another way, because sometimes you might not necessarily get a check. So let's talk about paper checks, and then we'll talk about if you've already cashed a paper check or if you have direct deposit. So if you've received a paper check and you have not cashed it, for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable checking that box on the front of the envelope marking deceased, you can always write void in the endorsement section on the back of the check, and then you can mail the voided check immediately to the appropriate IRS office. Now, the office that you're going to mail it to depends on the state where you reside. So in Pennsylvania, you're going to mail it back to the IRS office in Philadelphia. If you need to do this, call our office at 717-655-2676, and we can provide you with the actual address that you're going to return the check to. You also want to, so you're going to write void on the endorsement on the back of the check. You're going to send it to the IRS to the address that they have indicated based on the state where you reside. They're asking you not to staple, bend, or paperclip anything, and they're asking you to include a note with a reason for returning the check. Okay, so that would be the way that you handle a paper check. Now, the next question I know is going to be if you have already cashed this check or if you have a direct deposit. So the first thing is if you've cashed it or if the payment was a direct deposit, the first thing you're going to do is submit a personal check, money order, something along those lines immediately back to the IRS location that's listed. And again, that depends on the state. Here in Pennsylvania, we send it to Philadelphia. You're going to make the check or money order payable to the U.S. Treasury. So in the payable line, you're going to put U.S. Treasury. You're going to write 2020 EIP in all capital letters. So it'll be 2020 EIP and the deceased person's identification number or their social security number. You're going to write that in the memo line on the check or the money order, and then you're going to include a brief explanation for why you're returning the payment. Now, we've had a couple of clients where husband and wife were receiving a stimulus check. So they may have received, for example, the $1,200. And in this case, wife had passed away. So in that case, what we're doing is we are cashing the check, but then writing a check back for the $600 for the deceased person. And for the most recent stimulus checks that were given, I know that Congress passed it in December, but they're saying that if the person was not living as of January 1st, 2021, if they had died prior to that, then they are not entitled to the stimulus check. So it's all about when did the person pass away. We have one client who passed away at the end of December, and so they're not entitled to the stimulus check, but we have a couple of clients who maybe passed away at the beginning of January, and they are entitled to the stimulus check. So it's all about when did you pass away. If someone passed away prior to January 1st, 2021, then they are not entitled to the most recent stimulus check. If you have any questions, you're welcome to call our office at 717-655-2676, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about how to handle a stimulus check for a deceased loved one.